So what that enabled the Atlanteans to do is to have a central transmitter, a central tower that produced electrical energy or power for the entire world. Not only did it do that, as was the case in Nikola Tesla's vision, it allowed them to transmit television signals, radio signals, allowed it to transmit energy and transmission of information and messages to airplanes, to UFOs, to all these different things through that one power tower. And so, what does that have to do with, and why are we talking about that in regard to Nikola Tesla? Well, Tesla was, at that time of Atlantis, one of these advanced luminaries who came at that time as well, and was one of the builders of that power tower at the time of Atlantis. So he came back in the last 100 years, once again, or a little bit further back than that, to again reestablish what he had done in Atlantis, which is to build that power tower. So in his mind, and we have it illustrated here, the one that he built at Wardenclyffe, a picture of it in this montage, what he was doing was he was not only moving mankind forward, he was also tapping into what he'd already built many lifetimes before, which is this power tower to help the world progress in a positive way, in a positive motion. Again, doing so, working in harmony with the universe. That is written throughout Tesla's works, is that at the time that he was developing this power source on our planet this time around, he was constantly talking to people about the fact that we should not be polluting the planet. We should not be using charcoal or coal as a source of energy and power to generate electricity. He thought that was incredibly unintelligent, that we were polluting our planet, that we shouldn't have cars that polluted the world. And at the time, I believe it was about 1910, he and a guy named Lord Kelvin, who was a physicist in England, had a conversation or letter writing back and forth saying, you know what, until you get your power tower together, we should convince people that they should be going with solar power and wind power to generate electricity, because we shouldn't be polluting our world. This is in 1910, 100 years ago. These guys were talking about this, and it's taken, quite frankly, humanity 100 years to come around to the recognition of, oh, that's right, polluting our world is a bad thing, because it's going to harm me. So, so we can see that there's a continuity of consciousness, of history with Tesla. That it wasn't that somebody said, okay, I'm going to smile on this guy, and he's going to be more brilliant than anybody else. It wasn't that way at all. Tesla had spent many, many lifetimes developing his consciousness, learning, growing, adding to that psychic body, that psychic anatomy that we talked about earlier. So that for him, it was natural. It was just a natural thing for him to come in this world and have this ability to see what nobody else could see. Has anybody read up on Tesla and how he used his consciousness? It's fascinating, because you have never read any autobiographies or information about Tesla. He would see in his mind how this was to operate, how his AC motor was to operate. It was the first one that I read about. And it came in as a flash into his consciousness, and he immediately saw the whole thing working in his mind before he actually built anything. And that's the way many of these things came to him. Well, why? Why did it come to him that way and not you, or not me, or not David, or anybody else? Well, he had worked on these things on the inner planes of light. That's what we term them in Unarius. He'd worked on them on these inner worlds, so that when he incarnated in that lifetime, he was just downloading this information, not only from the inner planes where it was stored in that psychic body, that energy body, but also because that's what he, again, had developed over many, many lifetimes. And you can see the same continuity with so many people throughout our history. I mean, why was Mozart writing symphonies at 9 and we weren't? Well, it was natural for him, because he had developed that over many, many lifetimes. So this is part of this process of understanding our positive future, is that each one of us has to learn to become more constructive, positively outgoing people, and add to our own storehouse of knowledge, so that when that time comes, it's not like somebody's going to give us something automatically for free. We have to earn this right to use this power tower. Otherwise, just as happened with the understanding of the atom, it can be used for destructive purposes. What happened when they figured out the atom could be split? They had to go out and build a few bombs. So here we are again. We're at the crux point where we as a humanity are deciding which way we're going to go. And we can't go out and proselytize and tell other people you have to change without us changing first. And that's part of this whole process of education, is that we have to learn that, before I can tell somebody else that their laundry is dirty, we have to clean up our own. So that is part of this whole discussion is because everybody comes to me and says, well, when are we going to have one of these? The knowledge that is required to build this what we term the Tesla power tower and the future generating power plant for planet Earth is incredibly advanced. We understand this. But before these beings, these brothers who work on the inner planes of light with every one of us, people have termed them the guardian angels, that every one of us has. Everybody has people, these souls that work with us who are not in the physical dimension. Before they are going to allow us to develop these things, we have to prove that we have earned the right to have these things. So that's the whole part of the process of us giving these talks.
At the end of this lecture, we're going to open it up to question and answers. Before that, we'll turn on the coil here and give you a little bit of a simple demonstration. First of all, I want to read a couple of quotes, if I may. This is one of my favorite quotes from Alex Jones. The energy needs for the next decade or century are so huge, and yet our thinking is so limited. What Tesla knew about propagating electricity through waves was way beyond our present understanding. Had we been able to unlock what he had in his mind today, we would have a very different energy policy. This is a quote by Tesla himself. Electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities and can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, or gas, or any other of the common fuels. So this is the vision he had. This is the vision he gave people. He gave many, many lectures. He gave many demonstrations. And yet he was always tuned to the future. He knew as children we could only understand so much of what he had to give. He had over 700 patents. And he told people that a lot of the things that I have developed, I've patented, I've diagrammed, are for the future scientists. And they are the ones who can understand it. They're the ones who are going to incarnate here and going to unlock it. It's already started. We're already headed into a new age, a new golden age. And believe me, there's a grand design that's already been designed for planet Earth. And one of those is to be in contact with other planets who already use this technology. We're the ones who have been retarded, spiritually. So if we do have this technology that comes in, are we going to be spiritually mature to make sure it's not going to be misused? Well, it depends, like Kevin said, on us understanding how we work as souls and how we can clean up our own laundry, how we can realize that in a previous life maybe I didn't, I wasn't so positive. So you can learn how to correct those mistakes and continue your evolution. And this will open it up to your higher self. This is one of the main things that will open it up to your higher self. It will remove the residual karma, at least start on it, that you've accumulated in past lives, like Atlantis. And we lost this technology in Atlantis because the people there became degenerative. They lost contact with their spirit nature, the spiritual teachings that Amun-Ra left, and other great avatars or cosmic visionaries. So one of the things that will eventually come about, you still with me? One of the things that will come about one day is a power tower will be named in his honor. It'll be called Tesla Power Tower. It will stand 2,000 feet high. It will go 1,000 feet into the ground. And in the ground, it's going to grab onto certain electromagnetic lines of force that are in subterranean, and it's going to be able to project beams of energy like a laser. And there's a little bit of a graphical representation there on the bottom graphic.
So we have the new modern demonstration or diagram, or not even diagram, just illustration of what the power tower will be. And then up here you can see, Tesla's vision of tapping that at Warden Cliff.
So the output of this tower will send a beam of energy right to the Earth in London, Shanghai, wherever, Japan, Australia. They'll all have free electrical energy. And this will be an invisible beam of energy.